condition making wiping over the khuff invalid. Meaning that if I have my wiping over the khuff, when does it become invalid? Number one, when taking a bath becomes obligatory. What do you mean? See, wiping over the socks is permitted only to uplift a minor impurity, ritual impurity. So only for wudu I can wipe over the socks. But if I had an nocturnal emission, if I had intimacy with the missus, this means I'm in a major ritual impurity. This can only be done or uplifted by performing ghusl. And I cannot wipe on my socks in ghusl. I have to take them off. So immediately this invalidates the wiping. You have to take them off and wash your feet throughout the process. Number two, it says if any part of the feet is exposed, and this is ambiguous, so you may not need to correct this. If I take off my socks, though I'm in a state of purity resulting from wiping, so it's dhuhr time, I wore my socks earlier in the morning in the state of original wudu where I had washed my feet. I went to the bathroom a couple of times, passed wind, dhuhr time comes, I perform wudu and I wipe over my socks. Valid? Valid. Now, after a couple of hours, it was a little bit hot. So, while in the state of wudu, which I just prayed dhuhr with, I took off my socks for an hour. And then it's asr time, I put them on. Can I wipe? The answer is no. Why? Because now in the second time where I had put them on, did I put them on in the state of an original wudu or in the state of a wudu resulting from wiping? No, the answer is I wiped for dhuhr. In this case, you cannot wipe again. You have to wash your feet because you took off your socks. And this means that you interrupted the condition, which is to put them on in the state of an original wudu. Taking them off does not mean that your wudu is invalid. It's still intact until you break it. But you cannot put the socks again and wipe over them unless you have an original wudu from the beginning, from the start. Number three, taking the khuffs off, we spoke about that. Number four, so what's the difference between 2 and 3? Number 3 is about taking the khuff off. And this means that you cannot wipe again. Number 2 is referring to having some of the skin exposed, whether through a hole or a see-through socks, as some jurors, the majority of jurors say that if it's a see-through, let me rephrase that. They say if it's a see-through socks, this does not allow you to wipe over that. But Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen and others say, no, this is totally bogus. Anything that you wear on your foot, the concession was made to make life easier. So whether it's a see-through or not, whether it's leather or nylon, then there's no problem in that. So number 2 is referring to seeing or exposing part of the organ. Number 3 is taking it all off. And number 4, the lapse of the time limit. And we've gone through that also, that if it is over, you cannot wipe, but you still can perform salat. Your wudu is not invalidated by the lapse of the time limit. Sheikh, you're getting us confused. No, there's no need to confuse. What's the time frame for a resident? 24 hours. When does it begin? Well, the most authentic opinion which is against what the text says, is that the time of the concession begins from the actual wiping, not from the actual wudu. So it's Fajr time, I performed wudu, I washed my feet, and I put the socks on. I prayed Fajr, then I prayed Dhuhr, then I prayed Asr in the same wudu. I did not break it yet. Maghrib time, I went to the bathroom, answered the call of nature, and then performed wudu and wiped over my socks. This is when the time begins. So I have from this Maghrib to the following day's Maghrib. So I prayed Isha, Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr. Maghrib time, I was before the call of Maghrib in the state of wudu. I prayed Maghrib, Isha, I prayed Isha. I don't have to take off my socks and perform wudu because I'm still having my wudu of wiping before Maghrib, before the time was over. And if I stayed all night long and I prayed Fajr with the same wudu, there's no problem in that, inshallah. Starting time, I've gone through this. Yeah. So the textbook doesn't explain it the way I did, because some jurors say that the time starts from the actual wudu, not the actual wiping. And the most authentic opinion is that no, you may pray Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha in the same actual wudu that you washed your feet in and you did not wipe, and the time doesn't start. And then in Fajr time, you start your first wiping on the khuff. This is when the 24 hours begins. And Allah Azza wa Jal knows best.